at a literature festival focuses on the writings of a religious leader. But later today in Bradford, they'll be discussing the work of the founder of the Sikh faith, Guru Nanak. It's also part of celebrations to mark 550 years since his birth. Guru Nanak's writing was considered revolutionary in 15th century India, challenging the caste system and the divide between Hindus and Muslims. I'll be discussing his impact with Dr. Jasjit Singh, a researcher in religion at the University of Leeds, and Mahmood Awan, a journalist and researcher of Punjabi poetry. First, though, let's hear one of Guru Nanak's most famous hymns, which is sung every morning in Sikh temples. So, Dr. Jasjit Singh, tell us, what was that hymn saying?
So that hymn was called Asa Divar, which means the Ballad of Hope. Many of the compilations of Guru Nanak were written in rags, which are musical measures which convey particular emotions. And Asa Divar is there to convey hope. And in this particular compilation, Guru Nanak, as he does throughout his life, he challenges a number of societal norms. So he challenges gender inequality, religious leaders who don't speak up for the people that follow them. He challenges a whole host of structural norms, and that's actually my favourite composition of Guru Nanak.
So he's not just speaking about God, as it were, he's doing a direct commentary on society.
Many of the images that you see present him as an old person sat down, but he was actually very, very active in his life, and he spoke up to rulers of the time. He actually spent time in prison and helped free prisoners, so he was certainly a very active individual, challenging societal norms, challenging inequalities wherever he saw them.
Can I just ask you, Mahmood, you come from a Muslim tradition. How does Guru Nanak speak to you then, and how is he relevant to you?
Baba Nanak speaks to me in the same ethos in which other Muslim Sufi tradition poets speak to me. I think Baba Nanak is a revolutionary character as we see it in the whole Punjabi or Indo-Punjabi tradition. In those times, these people were not only writers, they were revolutionaries in a sense, because they were challenging all ills of the societies, and they were in and among those people who were downtrodden, who were untouchables. And that is the beauty of Baba Nanak, because at one stage, he is such a prudent writer who is taking our language forward, the Punjabi language. So that tradition of saying the truth and being commoner among commons and treating that class system with utmost, dislike and disgust at some level, and associating yourself with those people. So that tradition is what Baba Nanak carried forward in that area as well, in one context.
And Dr. Singh, do you think that the fact that he's become this sort of huge sort of religious leader, do you think people have lost some of that very basic, very powerful message?
Well, it's interesting. So I looked at how Sikhs learn about Guru Nanak, and primarily it's through either pictures or through stories. And I thought I'd actually go back and look at the writings of the Guru rather than looking at the stories which were often transmitted. And if you look at the writings of the Guru himself, he is absolutely revolutionary, and he calls rulers dogs. He actually talks about issues which are very contemporary as well, which should really inspire people to stand up to injustice. So there is certainly an aspect of him that has been lost, and I'm hoping that the 550th anniversary of his birth will inspire people to actually engage with the words of the Guru rather than just simply the stories.
And do you think the fact that he was a good writer, Mahmood Awan, do you think that actually made a big difference? I mean, we don't tend to think of religious leaders as literary figures, do we?
Absolutely, that's so prudent, because that is what really happened. Even with all those Bhakti Sufi tradition poets, that religiosity, that organized religious form takes over the writer. And this has happened with Baba Nanak as well. But if you look at purely from the poetic context, it's such a beautiful poetry, even if we just stay on the poetry line. When I read this line, and I will repeat and then I will translate, Aao subhagi nindadiye mat shau vekhan soye, which means, oh sleep, come over to me so I can see my beloved in sleep. So Baba Nanak is calling on the sleep so I can meet my beloved in my dreams. So these beautification of the language and that ethos, which is very universal, it becomes quite a bit supernatural sometimes. And this happens with all the figures which become religious over time, and that's how it happens, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a key point to make is that Guru Nanak actually established a line of succession as well. So he had two sons, but his sons weren't really following the path that he was talking about. So he chose his best disciple to be the next guru. So it was clearly intentional for Guru Nanak to actually establish a tradition, and he established a city as well. And many of the Sikh gurus established cities as well. So it wasn't just about being, quotes, religious. It was actually about being political as well. And you find many concepts in the Sikh tradition have both a political and religious aspect to them. And the thinking behind that is that you improve yourself, and by improving yourself, you improve society, which means that you're in a better environment yourself, and the cycle goes round and round. So the political and religious are very closely connected in the Sikh tradition. That there isn't that clear divide between sacred and profane, political, religious that you find in other traditions maybe.
And has he influenced other religious traditions?
He was born in 1469, which is quite modern compared to many of the traditions. So that's only, as I say, 550 years ago. But his thinking clearly is very, very important.
Dr. Jasjit Singh and Mahmood Awan. Earlier in the programme,